Hey guys, today we are looking at a bootleg or knockoff version, pirated copy, whatever you want to call it, of the Airfix 132 scale Russian infantry. Now these guys are actually in 172 or as close as you're going to get in a knockoff, and to be honest, they're not actually that bad. You might have noticed my other video on the bootleg Japanese Airfix Japanese infantry from World War II, and this is just a kind of a follow-on with some Russians. As I said in the other video, I happened to just come across a quantity of them on eBay a couple of years ago and picked them up basically for the young lad, and I utilised a few of them for practice purposes and painted up a battalion of the Japanese and the Russians from a rapid fire perspective, even though I don't really use Russians a lot, and these are actually the only painted Russians I have at the moment. But at the same time, they're not the worst, it has to be said. I don't have a set of the actual Airfix 176 scale Russians to hand at the moment. I do possess a set, but as I say, I just cannot lay my hand upon them. But I do know they're there somewhere. But these particular guys actually represent all the poses that were in the 132 set. And they were pretty kind of cool poses, I must say, even if they are a little bit limited in number and maybe even what they're actually up to. But at the same time, the kind of classic poses often copied, as well this little set here testifies to. But at the end of the day, what you get is your commanding officer there, if you want to call him that, with the binoculars, and quite a classic pose there as well. That can be easily converted to be pretty much anything really, as regards you could convert him to be Bulgarian or Hungarian or even Italian or whatever, even French, even, to be honest with you, if you were handy enough with an old blade and the paint colorings. So from that perspective, they're a handy little set. Back there you have the rifleman firing the rifle. It's not the Mosin Nagant, it's the semi-automatic version, the name of which escapes me at the moment. Here then you have the submachine gun with the PPSH. Was that 7.65 millimeter thereabouts, with a little round drum, and then you have the classic matchbox pose there of the guy running with the same SMG. And here again, another classic pose, the guy kneeling down, firing the same weapon, and quite accurately holding it by the magazine. You wouldn't want to be holding it by the barrel unless you didn't want any flesh on your hands anymore, because it would overheat, of course. The helmet isn't 100% accurate, to say the least, but it's close enough. I've painted them up in the colours recommended by Airfix themselves for their own 132 set, so it's as close as I can get. The guy down here with the light machine gun is a DP light machine gun. He seems to be kind of has his hand on the magazine, which should be maybe changing the mag or whatever it is. The gun bars in these guys didn't really come out on any of the examples I had, but that's close enough. And then this guy, which I think is a great pose, is the guy throwing the grenade from the lying or prone position. So basically, you might have noticed these guys when you were a kid, or you might still see them knocking around. They generally came in this red or reddy, rusty brown sort of plastic. And as I said, there's a bit of flash on them. Some of the detail isn't 100% as regards the weapons. The uniform isn't bad, it has to be said. And there's not an awful lot going on the originals anyway as regards equipment. In fact, there's basically nothing, just a belt and a pouch, which mightn't even be overly accurate if I was to look at that from a kind of more pedantic perspective. It doesn't have an awful lot on it at all. But at the same time, they do represent Russian soldiers, and for a long time, were one of the only sets of Russians out there, from what I recollect, or at least that I could see. But as I say, these are knockoffs, and they're the poses you get if you can get your hands on them, which wouldn't be any major trial, as I say, because these are readily available. I actually got them from some guy in Italy, I think, about 4 years ago. Soldatini Plastico, I think, was the listing on eBay, and I just happened to come across them, and I thought, wow, cool, yeah, I'll be having some of those. the Airfix sets were often copied, as you probably have seen with my Japanese infantry Airfix knockoffs. There's one set. The Africa Corps were also copied. The 8th Army were also copied. Pretty much everything. The Russians fallen. And the one set I can't get hold of for some strange reason is the knockoff or bootleg version of the Airfix British paratroopers, which I would love to have an Airfix or a rapid fire battalion made up of those guys, because again they're far superior to Airfix's own release in that scale, which is a tragedy if you ask me. But there you go. I'd still love to have them, but just for nostalgia and completion's sake. But anyway, that basically is the Russian infantry in, I suppose you'd call it 172, because they're a little bit larger than the 176 Airfix releases. It's a, as I say, bootleg or knockoff of the original, but yet at the same time, even though these guys are probably 30 years old, I think they stand up and could be utilized quite handily to make up the numbers for your advancing Russian hordes. If you're trying to, I don't know, reproduce Operation Bagration or Bagration or whatever way you want to pronounce it, or any of the Eastern Front campaigns. Obviously these guys are kind of done in a summer uniform as opposed to a winter uniform, so from that perspective they might be limited to campaign wise, but I suppose anything on the Eastern Front is going to have that scenario going on. So guys, I'll leave you with that. I'll be back with a few more official releases in the near future, so if you'd like and subscribe, that'd be great. And in the meantime, if you can get out and get a couple of these guys, do so. They're good fun, they're good for practice, for painting and things like that, and as I say, they also make up the numbers quite nicely and provide a few extra poses, and for me it's all about the nostalgia as well. So there you go. Take care guys, see you again soon.